All right, welcome to Witchpolice Radio. I'm here with, I just stumbled the name of my own show. I say, welcome to Witchpolice Radio. But you know what it is. You're listening to this. You presumably know the name of the podcast. I'm here with a band that's been on the show before. I was looking at when the last appearance was, and it was back in 2019. So obviously a lot has changed in the time since. Not most importantly, a massive global pandemic that I'm sure affected you guys the same way it's affected everyone I've talked to over the past few years. But at the time we spoke earlier, Death Cassette was about to put out your first full length, and we're talking again now. You have another one coming, which is very exciting, and I do have a lot of questions about that. I want to hear all about the record, but before we get into that, if the three of you who are here want to just introduce yourselves and what you do in the band, so listeners can put a name to the voice.
Okay, I'll go first. I'm Mandy. I play guitar and sing.
I'm Lindsay. I play guitar, do a little yelling if I can.
And I'm Chuck. I play bass.
Awesome. Okay, so like I said, last time you were on the show, it was the same three members, I think, last time as well. So that's kind of cool for continuity's sake. But you were about to put out the first record, which was I really love that album. It's one of my favorite local albums of that year for sure. And I'm excited about this new one because I got some of the early chance to listen to it, and anyway, we'll get into it. But what has sort of happened over the past few years with this band? I mean, again, last time we talked, you were about to put out that record. It, I assume, did well for you in the sense that people seem to dig it, and you had a lot of shows sort of happening pre-pandemic and now again post-pandemic. But what's the state of the band? Is it the same band members? Are you still kind of doing the same thing, rolling along?
Yeah, same exact band members, just trying to write a lot more, trying to write more different things from the other record and just kind of jam out and see how that goes. We released our album the day before the lockdown and everything, so that was really awkward. But since then, we've had some good opportunities to play with some touring bands, so that was really great.
Yeah, you've been on some big shows. I've noticed seeing the name like popping up on in unexpected places, I think. So I guess just before we get into the new record, I mean, releasing it the day before the lockdown happened as a relatively new band, releasing your first record, like what was that like for you? Because that, I mean, it changed everything for everyone, but when you're trying to get your name out there and get people to hear this album that just came out, what was that experience like, sort of realizing that nothing you had planned was going to happen for a while at least?
It was almost like hard to be excited about it because like the future was kind of uncertain, and like even that night, like a lot of people that said they were going to be there were kind of scared too, and rightfully so. And the people that were there were all like distanced, and it was just a really bizarre vibe for a show. But yeah,
we had a band drop out.
Yeah,
two bands drop
out. Yeah, two bands. Yeah. The Thrashers came to our rescue.
Yeah,
and played. Yeah. And then we were planning to do a tour, like a little tour, and then that obviously it wasn't happening. We were all in lockdown the very next day. So
yeah, we should say the Thrashers saved our butts on that one, and so did Ian. Ian did an acoustic set. Singer of North Graffiti and
and the Torpedoes.
Yeah.
And about 15 other bands he's in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's awesome. Like so many thanks for that. I think it was interesting because we released the album. We had a little tour planned. It obviously didn't happen, but we did pretty well on college radio with that. Our single did pretty well on the loud stations. We ranked on there or whatever, and so it was interesting. But then we had to take a bit of a break, right? Because everybody was kind of scared to get together. Mandy worked in a healthcare situation at the time, so it wasn't really appropriate for us to get together for a while. So, and we don't do well over text and Zoom and Messenger and that kind of stuff. So we're definitely an in-person band. So it certainly put a hamper on it, but now we're back.
Yeah, and you have a new record coming out, and if I'm not mistaken, it definitely seems like this album has been a long time in the works. I mean, I remember seeing photos of you guys recording it, and I was like, "Oh, cool! There's a new album coming out." And then months later, now it's finally happening. How long has this been sort of in the works for you guys?
Well, just over a year, I would say, because we recorded last summer with John Paul Peters. So, and that was August.
Privateer Studios. We did it the day of the Burt Block party.
Yeah.
We got this crazy opportunity. So we had recording booked. We had the day booked, and we are doing like the record live off the floor, all the instruments. And we went in the night before, got our tones. And then that day we recorded the entire record, all the instruments, and then went right to there to the block party to play with like Pup and Cancer Bats and Rise Against. So it was a surreal day.
It was a nuts
We
day.
actually had to wake up at 8 a.m. on a Saturday to go record. We were like, what are we doing here?
I know.
Because we had to get it all done by 3 because we had to go sound check for that block party at 4. And it was crazy. And like, I'm pretty old and out of shape, and my back was killing me by the end of that night. I was looking around backstage for a place to lay down. Oh man.
So this new one, was it just recorded in one shot like that? Like the whole album was done? That's cool.
Not the vocals. Yeah.
The vocals, I went back later that week and just did vocals over top, but we recorded everything live together otherwise for the instruments.
We were really careful. John Paul was really great with us. So we're a live band anyway, right? And John Paul was really great. Got us in the day before and got all our tones like dialed. Everything was like absolutely dialed for tones. Spent a long time getting a really good drum tone, long time getting a really good bass tone, and then our guitars as well. So, and those songs we were really tight with. So we just played them 5 times through each, and we just took the best take. And then we did the vocals later that week, and Manny nailed the vocals. Like this recording really sounds like her.
Yeah, I feel like it's like the first time I actually sound like myself, and he made me feel really comfortable in there that I just like was able to get it in like 1 or 2 takes pretty much. So
yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
What is it about the vocals that sounds like yourself? Because that's an interesting way of sort of referring to it. I mean, because it does sound like you on previous records. Because I know you've been involved in a lot of other projects over the years. But what makes this more sort of you-ish, if that's a word?
I can't really put my finger on it, but like it sounds maybe less like produced, and how I feel like I would sound live, I guess.
Okay.
Because I feel like anytime that I've tried to record, it's like maybe I'm forcing it. I feel really awkward. So I just feel like it was probably my best takes.
Cool. Well, and I think I've only had that chance to listen to the record once, the upcoming record, but it definitely sounds raw and has that live feel like you're describing, which it makes sense for a band. I think like you to want to have that sort of vibe to it. But one of the things I noticed, and I don't know if I'm explaining this properly, but it kept coming to mind as I was listening to the album, is that it sounds like in a lot of the songs, more so than the previous record, there's like a tension that builds, and it almost seems like someone. The best analogy I can do is like someone tightening a screw, slowly tightening a screw, and then suddenly the piece of wood just breaks, and it gets really, and then it gets fixed and tightened again. Like it's not like the standard verse, chorus, verse, loud, quiet, soft thing, but it seems like it builds to something, and then it's just like really, really big. Often the hooks are huge and the choruses are huge, and it's just really like loud, and then it goes back down and tightens back up again, if that makes sense. And I noticed that it seems a lot more like that's happening than it did in the previous record, where there's like a sort of tension building throughout each song, and then it just gets unleashed, I guess, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's a cool way to look at it. I think we've been listening to this thing for so long, and and like been writing and working with these songs and sitting on this album, that like I think I look at the thing very strangely, because I've heard it so much. It's like do I like it because I've had to listen to it for so long? Is that why? Or like I think it's good, but
well, maybe a better way of explaining that thing I was trying to just explain is it almost seems like you're excited to get to the heavy parts. Like if that's an explanation, like it seems like a lot of bands will do that thing where they're building something louder and something heavier, but it seems like you're kind of like pumped to get there almost.
Cool. Yeah. That's interesting take on it for sure.
And the thing about John working with JP is that he takes like all the he makes it so you're not nervous to work with him, even though he's epic, right? And he's done crazy projects. So he really allows you to come through whatever you're doing in there. and he kind of disarms you the whole time. So I think that's part of it, and I think that the other part is the attention to tones. Like I think like our first record's great, but I go back and like, okay, well, I made the decision for my own guitar, it's too distorted for me, right? And then like you know, we made some decisions with like I'm not critical of it, like I'm not saying negative things about it, but like too much on the, you know, too many layers in those vocals. That's you know, manage your own backups and some of those things. It's like, no, that's not real for us. This is really disarmed and just like really real, you know. And it was inexperience with recording, not the people who did it. I'm not like, you know, I hope that they listen, you know, Kyle and Marty, they'll take them talking negative about the actual sound, but it was kind of like us, like we weren't inexperienced. Now I think we know what we want. And, you know, even when JP came back with some, you know, the first edits and there was like some, you know, effects on it and stuff like that, you're like trying things out. We're like, no. Like, remember, we want it to just sound like us. And he just really did that for us. And I'm really thankful for it.
Is that idea something that you want to have where they can be songs can be played sort of as they are on the record without having a bunch of extra bells and whistles? You want it to just be, you know, the same sort of experience live as on the album?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, we didn't want like triggers on the drums. We wanted it to be very raw, like you said. So that's, yeah, pretty much what we were going for. And JP really understood what we were trying to go for, and especially since we have no really good like terminology. Like, we're not smart with recording. It's not like we're not that educated about that stuff. So we probably frustrated the heck out of them because we didn't have that many notes. We were just kind of like, sounds good, yeah, more of this or more, you know. And yeah, so sorry about that, JP, but it sounds awesome.
But that's almost like an asset for you guys, just in the sense of the type of band you are, where again there's that live thing, right? Where you know what you want it to sound like. Maybe you don't have the terminology for the, you know, what buttons to push or whatever, but you're able to make sort of the sound you want to make pretty organically without having to add all the studio stuff and the effects and the extra tracks and everything. You don't have like a synth, you know, part in one of the songs or whatever. So yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And you know, like I feel like there's two really big parts in our band. It's like the drums are really big and the vocals are really big. And I feel like Chuck and I just like spend our time writing simple riffs that get out of the way of those things. Right. Definitely. It really suits it.
Mm-hmm. Was that kind of hard to do at first when the band first started, to figure out that you want to be sort of more in the background with the guitar and bass?
I think that was kind of the thought process the entire time. I know like Lindsay and I, we would jam a lot, and that was kind of like his vision. So we played with it and then kind of worked out.
Yeah, I remember like when I started, like when I started kind of hanging out with Mandy, being like, hey, let's start a band. And I was like, Chuck, I think we should do this. And then Chuck and I found Brock, or however it happened exactly. And Brock McPherson, our drummer, he's not here, you know, pouring out for him or whatever. That I remember I was at the Windsor, and Chuck and I were in another band, and we'd asked Mandy's other band to open for us. And you know Mike Coop, the CDs guy on Instagram.
Yeah. I know.
Coop, I like seeing drum in CDs, right?
I'm into CDs. Yeah.
He said somebody should start a grunge band with that girl. And I was like, I'm already on it. Right? Yeah. Like, yeah. No. He's like her voice is really good. Like somebody used to like do like some sort of grunge thing with her. And I was like, yeah. I've been thinking about it.
Yeah, and because we liked Mandy's voice so much, it was easier to be like, okay, let's keep this. Like we don't need some complicated riffs. We wanted to kind of work it around Mandy's vocals and the drums, and you know, and that's just kind of been, I guess, our style, what we've been doing.
And like they say, like, I don't know who says it, but I've heard it many times, is that if you can play a song on an acoustic guitar and sing it, and it's still a great song, then it's probably a good song. Right.
And you did some of those. You had some videos of was that over the pandemic, of acoustic performances, or was that more recently?
Yeah, we went to his MMA gym.
Yeah,
and we
martial arts gym.
Played some songs and
made a secret black room when we weren't supposed to be meeting anybody. Yeah. So it was we were thankful to put that out, be able to put something out during that time.
Well, when you do something like that, when you take those songs and strip down kind of a lot of the loudness from them, just by nature of being acoustic, does that give you any kind of new insight into sort of what the song means, not subject matter wise or anything, but just in terms of like how it's constructed and how you sort of perform it, having it in that stripped down version?
Yeah, I felt that I changed like the melody a little bit just to give it more of a punch, because the guitar is a bit deconstructed, you know what I mean? Like it's not as, I don't know how to even explain myself, but I tried to play around with that a little bit more just to give it a little bit more melody and emotion.
Yeah.
Just because it wasn't as loud. So
is it, I mean, I don't think with your band this is a problem, but is it hard to get that emotion through when you're doing something that is I mean, I don't want to call I want to say you're a heavy band, but you're not like a metal band or anything. You're not playing like death metal or whatever. But I mean, it is very loud and very in your face, and it's emotional, just I guess in its kind of general nature of the songs and everything, because you're loud, you're yelling, you guys are. But when you take it to acoustic, you can't yell as loud, you can't sing as loud, you can't play guitar as loud. Is it difficult to kind of get that emotion out if you're so used to playing it with sort of increased volume and distortion and everything else?
I don't think it's like difficult. I just had to maybe change the way I approach it. So like singing it a little bit softer instead of as yelly, you know what I mean? But
yeah. I also like think that Mandy has a big voice, but she doesn't sing loud per se.
Okay.
Right? So like it's there anyway, right? Yeah. So like she got a lot of control of her voice, which like naturally, I don't know where she got that from, right? But it's like, like you hear when you hear like real like pros do it, they're not forcing it, and like I was like, oh, like yeah, she's got that, right? She can do it at a low volume as well, right?
Yeah, I guess that is the difference between screaming so you can be heard and having that sort of stylistically in your voice. I guess it's a different thing.
Totally.
You mentioned earlier, that you're telling that story, Lindsay, about the Windsor and wanting to start a grunge band. Is that what you think of this band as? I mean, it's there for sure. The grunge thing is definitely there in the songs, but I'm going to ask the terrible question of how do you define the type of music you play? Because everyone hates answering that question, and like the more we get into the future, the harder it gets to define things, because there's so many subgenres and something core and post this and everything else. But like, what's the Cole's Notes version of how to explain what your band does?
Yeah, I think we started off like with the idea of having a lot of grunge elements. Like you can hear that in the first album.
Totally.
But this one, I think we've moved away from that. It feels a lot more punk to me. Less of that 90s kind of sound, less rockish kind of sounding, So yeah, I think at the beginning that was the idea, but it just kind of progressed into kind of something very different. And Mandy's old school punk. She's been in so many punk bands,
Yeah.
I think when we're writing and stuff too, we don't really have a genre in mind. We just like, oh, I have this riff. Like, what can we do with it? So
yeah, that makes sense for sure.
The first album was certainly like there were some songs on there that were intentionally like a grunge punk band. Now I would say we're a punk band with some grunge influences. Yeah.
Okay. So it's morphing. It's slowly morphing more in the punk direction.
Straight ahead punk, yeah.
Yeah. Which is interesting because I think that this new one, from just a quick listen to it, it seems like it has more hooks than the previous one did, or more obvious hooks, which I guess is a kind of a hallmark of a lot of punk rock too, is having these big choruses, the big kind of earwormy choruses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I tried to write a couple songs with a little less words and just try to so that someone's listening to something, they're like, oh, that song, and they have like 2 lines to work with if they want to sing along or whatever. Just trying to be mindful of that and save the emotions and the lyrics for the verses.
Like you remember American Flame Whip?
Sure.
Right? Right?
Yeah, great band.
That whole chorus is just gasoline. That's like that's the best shit ever.
It's a great song.
Yeah. Right? You don't need like local reference, right? To anybody who hasn't heard of them. Might be dating myself, but that's like, yeah.
They're great.
It's a one-word chorus. Fucking awesome.
Well, that's the punk rock thing. Yeah, well, you did. So it's all good. No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. That's the punk rock thing, though, right? That's always been sort of the thing around punk rock is three chords and the truth. You don't have to be saying anything that's like a novel. You just have to you have something you want to say, and you have like a basic understanding of how to make some noises that will get that message out there, right?
Yeah,
definitely. I think we all just kind of really do our own thing, and we're all into so much different music that like each song is just like, okay, I have this. What do you think? Is this cool? No, it sucks. Okay, we'll try this. So we don't really, to be honest, we don't know where we're going with any song until it's done, and then we're like, okay, this kind of fits. We have tons of backlogs of riffs that are just like, okay, yeah, what were we thinking? And a lot of good stuff that just never panned out. But yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that brings up another question about the backlog of riffs thing. You've been working on this record for such a long time now. Do you already have a lot of newer stuff that's been written since this, or are you completely focused on these songs? Because a lot of bands I know they'll go into the studio, they'll record, and then there's months and months or years or whatever until the album actually comes out, and by that point they've already moved on to something else. Whether the band is kind of shifted sonically or they have the next 35 songs ready to go. Where are you sort of in that spectrum of the album release process and then wanting to move on to new stuff?
Well, I'm just excited for people to finally hear the songs that we recorded. We've been playing them a little bit at shows, but definitely want to get them out there. But we're still writing and are looking ahead to newer things too.
We've got a few things, and like we're a little slow. And to be honest, like we took the summer off this year. We did a few shows, but like I went to Europe, Mandy went to Europe. We did some people had some time off. So this year's been a little slow with new writing, but like we're getting to it, and I've got some ideas I'm going to propose to them about like let's get some writing happening. But yeah, we've got probably 4 or 5 songs that are they just need to be structured better.
Maybe 2 or 3. We get distracted easily. We don't have good time management. So we're like, when all of a sudden we have a show coming up for writing, we'll just kind of slowly stop doing that. And then we focus on the show. And then it's been like a month later, and then the show's done. And then we want to chill out for a week or so. And then we get back at it. So hopefully after this one, we hopefully won't play any shows for a little while, and we can focus on writing and get going on something new, because we've kind of, this one we've been sitting on for a year. So like Mandy said, we're excited to get it out there and see what people think and kind of move on.
Well, and the day we're recording this, you just recently announced the album release show. So that's got to be exciting, kind of knowing that there is now a date that's out in the public and people, can actually know when to expect this record. So what are the details of the show and when people can actually hear this?
We're playing the Goodwill on Friday, November 17th. And we'll be playing with Mosa, How to Boil Water, and Screaming at Traffic. So,
yeah, I think it's like really happy with that lineup too. I've never seen How to Boil Water, but they're nice.
Well, they're new, right? They're still quite new.
Yeah, they're like a young band. I mean, in terms of like tenure, they just started, and I hear they're doing an episode with you.
Yeah, we're gonna do one. Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
And then Mosa, obviously, like they're one of the other bands of the city who have like a grunge influence and have a lot of respect for them. I really like their music. And then Screaming Traffic are like, obviously a tenured punk rock band in the city. They've been doing it a while. They've toured. They're professionals. They're good.
Yeah. Well, and they occasionally have little snippets of grunge elements in there too. I mean, they're definitely more of a punk band, but every once in a while, the 90s thing kind of filters through what they're doing.
For sure.
Totally.
At this point, I mean, it's a podcast. People can hear it. It comes out. They could hear it a year from now, at which point the record will have been out for a long time, and maybe you're touring, maybe you have new music, whatever. What's the best way to sort of hear you now if someone is checking this out and find the music that you have released already and find out about upcoming shows and things like that?
Man, we just made a link tree, so that's pretty exciting. So if you just go to our Instagram, that's probably where you'll find, like where we post the most and kind of keep everything updated on our Instagram, which I don't know what it is, but if you type
I'll link to it. I'll link to your link tree in the show notes.
Right. Our link tree is linked on the Instagram there, which will hopefully have everything. And yeah,
we obviously do the streaming and that kind of thing. And this album is going to come out digitally We've got some plans for like something in the future of a hard copy, but it's not for the release show. We're not gonna sell CDs or anything like that. It's gonna come out digitally, and yeah, there's some twists and turns there. It might happen.
Maybe some tapes.
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
maybe
looking
a few
at
tapes.
into tapes.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah, I love the tape renaissance. It's great. I never stop listening to them, so it's fantastic. Whenever I see
Yeah.
bands bringing the tapes,
And I have a tape player too.
It's
and-
pretty reasonable
Yeah,
to get
yeah.
some tapes made. I don't know.
yeah,
if
it's
we'll sell
affordable
it.
and you can do it yourself, and yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
yeah. We got big plans to sell them for $6.66.
And if any bands out there that we want to split a vinyl with us, that would be something cool, because this album it's 6 songs, and it's about the perfect length for one side, right? So we didn't want spend all this money on a vinyl just for 3 songs on each side. It'd be like, oh man, this is kind of lame. But we'd love to split one with somebody. Hit us up.
Yeah, it'd be cool if you could do that for sure.
That's our plan. We kind of have some plans. I wanted to see if we could find a band. If it's a really cool local band that wants to do it, great. But it'd be awesome to do a band in Europe or in the States to split it with. That way, their market hears us, our market hears them. Right? It's a win-win. And then we order however many 100 vinyls, they order however many 100 vinyls, gets the cost down. It's I think it'd be a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying for it.
And then you have less in your basement to try and get rid of, 2 years down the line when you get rid of dust. Not that I don't think you'll sell them, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So the other thing we should actually probably tell you on here, because we'll have it announced, is that we're working with a record label on this one.
Cool.
High End Denim Records. They're an Alberta label, and we're really happy to work with them. They're helping with all the Spotify stuff, because my goal with this personally, when I came into, was hey, we're releasing this, I was like, guys, nobody hears our stuff because we play locally, we sell CDs, right? Got a couple thousand listens on Spotify on a few songs, but it's let's get those numbers up. So they're really helping us to get the album out there and actually heard. So that's gonna be really cool. I'm really excited to work with them and see what we can do with them, and hopefully it's a win-win on both sides.
Awesome.